Happy Friday. Welcome to the LinkedIn Live. I'm Rick Vanover from Veeam, and I'm joined by
Melissa Palmer. Thanks for having me join you again, Rick. We do this quite a bit, don't we?
Oh, it's we got the Dave and Jason show usually on Mondays, and then we have the Melissa and Rick show usually on Fridays. Sometimes we mix it up. It's good to have you back, so thanks for joining us. And we've got a great topic here today, but one of the most amazing parts of our LinkedIn Live are you, the attendees. So in the chat, we've got Christian and some others from our global teams here. Let us know where you're from. We're going to light up the application and make it green today. So let's get into it. So, Melissa.
Yes, Rick.
Our topic is the lab and the career.
Lab. I was in the lab this morning, actually. I was doing some labbing.
I was looking at the restores of our lab. The lab. It's all about the lab and how it applies to your career. So let's jump into it. I think the lab has changed your career and changed my career. So I think what we'll do to start this out is kind of answer the question, how has a lab changed your career? Melissa, tell me how it has, because I already know the answer.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a crazy story. So this was way back when I was still on the customer side. I was a couple of years out of college. And this was right when Cisco UCS came out, and the place I worked was a large Fortune 500 company, a big Cisco shop. And Cisco basically came over and was like, hey, here's 2 chassis full of UCS servers. Why don't you guys just kick the tires? And I was the only one on my team. We were the VMware vSphere team, of course, right? I was the only one interested. So I ended up with basically 2 full chassis of UCS to do anything I wanted with. So I did all sorts of crazy stuff on there. I mean, it was mine. I could beat it up. I could do anything. I had so much power, right? So it was just an amazing experience. I learned the Cisco UCS platform well, which kind of led to later in my career me becoming a solutions architect and creating the validated designs for FlexPod, right? Cisco and NetApp. So that kind of put me on this trajectory I didn't realize was going to happen at the time, because for me, it was just some free servers to kick the tires on. Turned out I really liked it. I learned a lot about it, and that put me on a path, and probably honestly, Rick, got me where I am today at Veeam.
No, I feel that my story is really similar, though it wasn't free. I kind of am jelly about that. But my thing is I wanted to do more. I was in the end user space as well, at a large manufacturing organization. And I always had this spirit. It's what I call now the spirit of technical evangelism. So I thought, let's buy a server. Let's make a home lab.
Was it the eBay special?
No, I bought it new. I bought a brand new. It was at the time an HP ProLiant server. Well, I was moving them out at work. I deployed them a lot. And I said, I could really use one of these. So I bought one. Well, actually, before that, anyone in the office, you got a junk computer, I'll take it, And I had if anybody knows what a quantum Bigfoot is, I had a little Frankenstein of those put together, but I would do some Linux stuff. And then I got a server and I made my first virtualization cluster, host. And it changed everything. It actually allowed me to do the blogging back in the 2000s, right? 2 decades ago. And I could really kind of build my career and stuff. And that led one thing to the next, and here we are. And I'd say above all, the lab is that place where you can try things you just can't do in production, or at least know how it'll happen in production when you do it. And I think everyone has their story of the lab, but the reality is I think they're important, career development, the new technologies you can get access to, that all this stuff kind of works together. But I think you had some real interest in the fun factor. How was labbing fun?
I don't know. I always enjoyed it, right? Especially when I wanted to learn a new technology. It ties back in, but it's something you don't do in your day job, right? So it's okay, I want to learn more about, I don't know. I remember when I built my first domain controller or something like that. I'm going to build myself a domain, right? You can do all sorts of crazy stuff. You can mess stuff up. What happens if I do this? What happens if I do that? You can do it all in the lab and just blow it away later, and it doesn't really matter. I enjoy breaking things in labs. It's just like a skill I have. I somehow manage to mess things up, but it's always fun, right? Because a lot of it is learning the troubleshooting to recover from what you've done wrong or anything else. And you're learning, right? You're learning something. Even if you blow up the whole thing and have to start from scratch, well, maybe now you learn what not to do with that technology, right?
Well, you also learn that you better have a backup of what you're blowing up, right?
Funny. It's a good thing I know about this really great backup and replication product because I think I told you this when we were prepping for this. I have a list of things I call like stupid Veeam tricks that people probably don't normally do, but I do in the lab, right? Like I'll back everything up before I destroy it and blow it away and stuff like that. Or I'll use it to move stuff around to a different lab. Oh, this was too slow. Let me put it over here. So actually, we do have, and I know I'm spoiling the fun, we do have Community Edition, right? Veeam Community Edition. And that's actually a really good asset in your lab. So you can just blow stuff up and restore it later.
Yeah, so we'll get to that in a second. But, the labs are important. And we're going to talk about here in a second how the labs in 2021 and beyond can help you for these goals of changing your career, learning new technologies, and having fun. But let's take a look at the application. So we've had a lot of you let us know where you're from. So go in the comments and drop in either your major city or country. And we've had, a lot. We've got India, Serbia, Kenya, New Jersey. Oh, that's, I think, could be more. California, Romania, Nigeria, Nicaragua, Colombia, Poland, Denmark, Czech, South Africa, Montreal, Qatar, Ohio, Jordan, looking in. Oh, man. Denmark. I miss Denmark. Copenhagen's cool. Hey, Brazil. Hey, Venezuela. Bienvenidos. Hey, Africa, both South Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. Welcome, India. Wow, I love seeing the map.
A lot of people. Thanks for watching. Some
of you quite late at night. That's awesome. So we're going to come back to the map again. If you want your region lit up, drop it in the comments here. Question comes in from Tim. What are your 5 favorite features to demo in the lab? Oh, okay. Well, let's go rapid fire. I'm going to let ladies go first. You do one, Melissa, and then back.
Okay. So I like to, if I'm talking about Veeam backup and replication, I like to completely blow up and restore a file share. And then I go into Veeam Backup Enterprise Manager and do the exact same thing over. That's 2. Veeam 1, I like to take a look at my VMs and show basic control. Hey, you can turn them off, reboot them, etc. And then I go and I do Veeam Intelligent Diagnostics and show how Veeam can take a look at your backup and replication environment, look for common issues. That's 2 Veeam 1 things. That's 4. And 5, what can number 5 be? Pretty much anything to do with Veeam Availability Orchestrator. So that's my 5.
That was my O, but yeah, I knew that was
the 5 canned things I pretty much do in the lab all the time.
Mine would be, think about the cloud. So what we're doing in Office 365, Veeam Backup for Azure, Veeam Backup for AWS, that's 3. And then Google. So it's 4 things. But I'd also say that like all the high-speed recovery techniques, instant VM recovery,
those are good too.
Instant file share, instant database recovery, and then it goes deeper. Like soon with V11 to take like this Windows laptop, instantly recover it to Hyper-V, or that Azure workload that's a VM, instantly recover it to a VMware VM on-prem. The portability, that's crazy stuff. Data portability. Good question, Tim. You put us on the spot.
That was good. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that. So, labbing is good. Melissa and I, we show and tell quite a bit. That's I think I wrote it in the job description as show and tell. I think that's what it is.
I think you did, yes.
Yeah. But, if we look at the lab wish list today and tomorrow and beyond, right, there's a lot of things that we I like to call them popcorn ideas, right? We kind of gathered and we wanted to share those with you. So, here they are. So right through this list, what sticks out at you, Melissa? I've got a few, but do any of them?
Okay, I'm going to go virtualization, security, automation, orchestration, and monitoring.
Okay, your passion lies there. I would go cloud and SaaS. I would go storage, and that's specifically backup storage, but you could also pivot that to primary storage. But you
could do a lot with storage, actually.
I also would go DR, a little bit of love for when things go wrong. Security, got to have security. Important. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that you could go into a lab strategy with. And this is, like I said, our popcorn list.
I mean, DR is a good one, too, just because the way it forces you to set things up, right? You actually have to really think through like a little mini design of how am I going to do 2 sites in my lab? I might have some nested vSphere up in there. So one thing I would probably encourage is like sit down with a piece of paper and draw out what you think you want your lab to look like. Think about the things that you want to learn, you want to test out, and kind of sit down and say, okay, what do I need to build? Even if it's all nested. I was talking to someone about this morning about nested labs. Like you love them and you hate them because the performance sometimes is like really, really bad. But if you're just labbing, you can deal with that sometimes, right? So.
Indeed. And I think that you'll you'll actually force yourself to be more efficient. Back to
yes,
the
that's true.
the nesting might not have the highest performance. So then you look a little bit more specific on what you actually need to do. That actually helps you in your day job. So you might think that some of these things make sense less or more, but the reality is it all is related. And we got a question from Andre. What's the best certification to get from Veeam? I think technical certifications like the VMCE are like that high level, and then there's the advanced or architect level credential. You could go on the website, and I think it's called the VMSP. That's if you are a seller. We have a sales professional bit. But the VMCE, Veeam Certified Engineer, is that highest level
That's
technical
the one, yeah.
credential series. And then I think it's like from there's a couple different flavors. We might have different specializations and stuff, but if you just Google VMCE or Bing it, you'll get where you need to go. So we'll do the map here in just a second. So if you haven't, this will be our second map show, so get it in while you can. But let's talk about how Veeam can help you. So Andre, maybe you want to do something with Veeam products in the lab, but I want you to know, building a lab, whether it's in the cloud, and I'm going to get to that here in a second, or it's from old computers that your coworkers will give you. Wait, that's only me that did that. Or if it's something that your employer actually commits to having a test environment for you to use, I think that Veeam has a product that'll help you out. So if you're not aware, we have a whole section of the web page, top free tools, and we have the link down there at the bottom, take you right to this page. But the thought is Veeam One, Veeam Backup and Replication, Agent for Windows and Linux and Office 365, AWS, Azure, the management pack for System Center to look at Veeam Backup, Veeam PN if you want to get technical and remote networking, whoop, whoop, raise the roof. Visio, Andrew on our team made that product or updated the visualization, Task Manager for Hyper-V. And, just you go on and on. There's so much to do. This is actually really important, especially if you're not sure that you need something like Office 365 backup. Well, go play with the community edition and, wait until somebody asks you to restore data. Or Veeam One, Melissa and I, we love ourselves some Veeam One.
We do. But especially in a lab environment, think about it, right? Your resources are constrained, right? Unless you somehow luck into 2 chassis of UCS, which I did. But when I left that job, right, I didn't have my beloved UCS anymore. I had, and this is going to sound like embarrassing because I'm like a VMware person, right? I had a Mac Pro with a ton of RAM and VMware Fusion, and I ran everything nested for years. I literally did my VCDX design documentation on a nested vSphere environment. That's kind of embarrassing to admit, but that's what I had access to at the time, right? So there's nothing wrong with that, but when you're running with those constrained resources, Veeam One can be a big help, right? Because you can put it on there, you can have it looking at your nested hosts and kind of monitoring how you're doing from a resource utilization. And one dirty trick I have in my lab for nested hosts is I do a 3-host lab, and I give one host a ton of RAM and try to keep most of the VMs on there. And then the other 2 just kind of have the bare minimum, so I have a cluster.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So that's kind of my trick. I make one really good nested host and keep stuff there, but I have a whole cluster so I can do DRS and blah, blah, blah. Not that anything ever moves, but it gives the look and feel of a cluster, right? So that's like a dirty trick I like to do. But Veeam One can help with that, kind of look at your resource utilization, even in your nested environment, because Veeam One still sees it as a vSphere host, right? Even if it's running on VMware. And you can look at it at the VM level, right? The VM itself running ESX, but then you add it to Veeam One as an ESX host itself, and you're looking at it at the host level too. It's actually pretty cool.
Mind blown. That is actually an awesome little trick.
That's my trick.
one kind of.
If you've ever seen me do a demo from my lab, I'm probably doing that.
Nice. And, there's a magic number associated with how Veeam goes into the free edition. And there's 2 magic numbers. The first number is 10 and the other is 24. So the backup products will, for free, back up 10 of, meaning Office 365, 10 mailboxes. Veeam Backup and Replication, 10 instances, which could be VMs, could be agents, etc. And then in the cloud, Veeam Backup for Azure, AWS, and Google, 10 of the compute nodes, right? So even if you're tinkering around in the cloud, we have a free strategy for you. This is like built into our DNA to kind of capture the hearts and minds of those of y'all wanting to do this. Now, as you go into the the lab and the seriousness, right? I like to say Veeam 1 will show you something about your environment that you didn't know, but you probably need to fix.
This is true.
You might, what you do in the lab may represent some of the administrative practices you do in production, right? So if you're using Veeam 1 there, it could help you there. It's like it's all related. It's all the same thing. But as you go forward, here's some kind of bigger tips. There's also some free offerings in the public cloud. I used to use a lot of the AWS free tier. I do a lot with Azure now. That's just to my personal interests. But I think that the cloud free editions are really important for sure. And then, Melissa, like there's also like rental options. Now, this is like kind of going beyond career development, maybe. But like the thought is if you have a special like project, you might need some on-demand stuff. There's a lot of options there.
Exactly. And especially for certifications like network certifications, right? There's all sorts of things you can do like GNS3 and stuff like that, virtualized networking. But if you're talking like Cisco land, you can literally go buy. I wish I could go buy a rack of Cisco equipment. That would be like a dream come true. But you can actually rent a rack of equipment with everything you need to study for your exam, and they'll give you lab guides and all that kind of stuff. Just go Google like Cisco rack rental or CCIE rack rental. That's a really good option. Again, even if you're not going to like become a CCIE, right, or anything like that, most of these places that provide the rentals give you a lab guide too. So you can just go in and, bang on the lab and take a look and get some new experience. It's usually really hard to get, right? I mean, not everybody can have like a Cisco router under their desk, right?
Well, hard to get is one area, but dangerous to do otherwise because the thought is,
you don't want to go messing with the Cisco switches at work,
right?
Might not unless so let's go to dev test labs at work. Another nice strategy is, okay, we have this old hardware that has no support contract, has no nothing. Can we just throw it in a rack in the corner of the data center and use it as like a test lab for us, right? A lot of employers are happy to do that, right? Of course, there's associated power and cooling costs, but if you're just talking about a little space in the data center, usually they're willing to give it to you. So definitely ask around work when the big refresher's coming. Hey, can we steal some equipment and Franken Lab, this kind of thing.
Exactly. Highly recommend making the case for like a proper test dev arrangement at work, because here's the other thing. I'm cheap. I'm still happy if I find a quarter in my couch. Okay, but like the power at home, purchasing the servers at home, those types of things. If you can make the case for work to fund the lab, and it's, you could even draw lines, maybe even get HR involved. Like, hey, that'll help us develop our people. That'll help us make changes more confidently in production. That'll help us use resources more efficiently. All kinds of things can come from that. So make the case. All right. We're going to go back to the application.
All right, let's see.
Thank you all for letting us know where you've
That
visited.
is a sea of green.
We got new is Scotland, Florida, Slovenia, Uzbekistan, Norway, Russia, Arizona, New York, Morocco, Saudi, and Zambia. Nice. Arizona, New York, upstate. Well, I don't know. That's a whole funny thing. You say New York. A lot of people think New York City. But once you cross that bridge, everything else is upstate and Long Island, right? So there's actually a funny, great representation in Europe, UK, Norway. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. South America as well. Have you ever seen that visual, Melissa, of the world according to New Yorkers, the map? It goes Fifth Avenue, 6th Avenue, California, Japan, upstate. Anyways, awesome. Thank you all for letting us know where you are. Well, there's a lot going on here at Veeam, and we're trying to make everybody aware, but V11 is right around the corner. We dropped RTM just last week.
Speaking of labs, right, and RTM, just saying.
Oh, that might even be the theme of next week. That's right. We are going to do some little bit more of V11 last week. Derek called it a post party. The after party.
It's going to be a party.
We're going to bring it to LinkedIn. We got to think about attire. Now, Melissa's up the game here today. I've wore a different pair of glasses. That's about as creative as I get. So we will see. But if you haven't checked out V11, we've got a great launch event.
Yeah, huge event coming up. Going to be super exciting. And then we'll have, I guess, the post-game party here next Friday.
And, big shout to a lot of our creative professionals here at Veeam. They've really prepared some fun content for this event and, all hours of the night. So big hat tip to the teams that are working on that. So So key takeaways, friends here, and everyone, thank you for joining us. Next week we got some Act 2 research. Sorry, not Act 2 research. That is a typo, and that is actually, that is right, by the way. Some Act 2 research around SaaS and IaaS backup. That was right. The Jason and Dave show will be up on Monday, and then on Friday next week, Melissa and I are going to host the post-in party. Melissa, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thanks for letting me talk about Lab. I mean, it's just one of those things. Again, you don't need much to get started. If you've got a computer around here with like 16 gigs of RAM, I mean, that's good enough to get started. 32 is like optimal probably to do some good stuff. But, just to get the bare minimum up and running and kind of cheat around things, you don't need much to get started. I think that's part of what people get nervous about because you see some people with crazy home labs.
Right.
I don't have a crazy home lab anymore. I have a couple of Nooks hanging around someplace. Those are good, the Intel Nooks.
Yeah, I mean, even like an old desktop.
I have an old desktop that I loaded up with RAM. Like, you don't have to go crazy, and then use Veeam to back it all up so you can destroy it over and over again.
A little bit of a RAM upgrade, maybe an SSD, and then something with a lot.
Oh yeah, an SSD. Like, especially if you're going to be running stuff with like low resources, it's worth an SSD, right? Sure. Just because it's going to be like really slow. So
awesome.
SSD.
We also had Uganda, Greece, Idaho, Colorado, and Algeria. Thank you all for the late ads. Great stuff, everyone. Well, on behalf of the Veeam Global Marketing team and the Veeam Product Strategy team, we'd like to thank you all for watching this LinkedIn Live. Have a great weekend, everyone.
See you next week.